So if a child comes up and asks to stroke your dog and you say no, and they still stroke it and your dog bites them, you would still get in trouble under this Section 3 of the Dangerous Dogs Act, because no is not a defence.
Welcome to The Consult Room, the podcast where we explore the evolving world of modern pet care. I'm Dr Paul Manktelow, a UK veterinary surgeon with a deep passion for pet health and welfare. In each episode, I'll be exploring key issues, challenging perspectives, and offering expert insight and practical advice. Because ultimately, my mission is to improve the lives of pets and the people who love them. We're confronting a critical issue, the alarming rise in dog bites across the UK. Shockingly, 1 in 4 people will have experienced a dog bite in their lifetime, and hospital records in England highlight a staggering 88% surge in hospital attendances for dog-related injuries over the past 15 years. But behind these stats are millions of dogs that are believed by most to be their trusted family companions, who they would never have imagined would cause injury or harm to others. So how do they end up here? To shed a light on this matter, we're joined by Gemma Taylor, who has over 25 years of experience in the animal welfare sector. Gemma helps deliver the Responsible Dog Ownership course, or RDoC, at Blue Cross, which equips dog owners with crucial skills from understanding dog law to interpreting canine behaviour. Gemma, welcome to the Consult Room.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So it's estimated that 27% of UK households now have dogs, which is around 11 million dogs in the UK. Now, in your work over the years in this sector, have you noticed any changes or trends in dog ownership that you think could explain this rise in dog bites?
I think we've seen, especially since COVID, the number of dogs going up hugely. And I think just by having people in closer proximity with a lot more dogs is going to present problems of some sort. We saw lack of training and socialisation during COVID as well. So specifically since COVID, we've seen the issues of dogs going up, which is no surprise, really.
So you've seen the number of issues going up, but have you seen the severity of these issues going up as well? Because I know, there's been lots of media attention recently about, really serious dog injuries and even fatalities. So is that a trend that you've noticed as well?
We've seen a slight upward trend in the severity. But I think just generally it's dogs out of control, and it's those smaller, low-level bites or incidences that we're seeing a real sort of upward trend in.
And what about the geography of these incidents? Have you noticed anything in terms of where they're happening?
So generally we're seeing, it could be anywhere in the UK. We get referrals onto the course from anywhere. However, I would say in sort of more populated areas, we're seeing more sort of dog-on-dog incidences, dog bites, just because they're in closer proximity to other dogs and people. In the countryside, we're probably seeing more livestock chasing, which again is a dog out of control under the Section 3 of the Dangerous Dogs Act. So we're seeing a sort of wide variety of owners whose dogs have been just generally out of control coming onto the course.
And is there any, as well as geographical differences, is there any demographic trends or incidents that you have been tracking?
We don't massively see any demographic trends, to be honest with you. We have people from all walks of life, which just shows how easy it is to get dog ownership wrong. We do offer a means-tested benefit option, but actually the people that take that up is actually a very, very small percentage. So generally, all walks of life, from people that are really struggling on a day-to-day basis through to very wealthy people. So I don't think there's any massive trend there, to be honest with you.
So it can happen to anyone, basically. We'll talk about the specifics of the Responsible Dog Ownership course in a minute, but can you explain the sort of cases that kind of get referred to you on a daily basis?
Yeah, so it could be anything from a dog out of control chasing sheep in the countryside, for example, or injuring sheep, Or it could be that someone's been admitted to hospital because of a dog bite, mainly children, for example, and that would be instantly flagged up to the police, and the police would go round, and this course would be part of their provision to come on, and they would have to attend this course. Otherwise, there's a potential that they could go to court and more serious consequences could happen. We could see dog on dog, which actually some people are really surprised about, because if we look at the law states that a dog that is dangerous is one that is dangerously out of control. And the actual words are any occasion, in any place. So that could be outside, it could be in your home, on which there are grounds for reasonable apprehension. So actually, the law states that a dog doesn't actually have to injure someone. It's all about how that individual feels. So if they think that that dog is going to hurt them, that would fall under Section 3 of the Dangerous Dogs Act. Now, the law states that a dog will cause injury to a person or assistance dog, whether or not it actually does so. Now, this is where the confusion comes in, because a lot of people that come onto the course go, well, when we explain the law, they said, well, my dog doesn't fit into that because it was a dog on dog. And actually, it was the other person's fault because they let their dog come over and they didn't have the recall. The dogs ended up fighting. But actually, we've seen some cases go through court, and this is called case law, where the judge has said because the dog has caused injury to another dog, there is a potential that it could cause injury to another human. And that is where the case law comes into that, and that's where the confusion comes in. So actually, it's really important that we have our dogs under control all the time, whether it's in the house, out on a walk, out in public. So yeah, there are huge consequences to it, which is really, really interesting.
So I've seen there's always a lot of confusion over dog law, and I've seen it myself over the years. But there is one thing that I just wanted to pick up, and I'm not sure who I heard it from. It might have been you, actually, in that dog law is one of the only laws where you're guilty until proven innocent. So it's completely opposite to how most UK law works, where you're obviously innocent until proven guilty. Can you just explain that for the listeners?
Yeah, so basically, if your dog falls foul of the Section 3 Dangerous Dogs Act, you are instantly guilty as being or not in control of that dog. So you have to prove, I think, all through the dog's life that you are as responsible as you can be. So that includes things like training in place, socialization for your dog in place. It includes you being a responsible person. So you probably want to keep on the right side of the law to make sure that you have a clean bill as such, so that you're not seen to be in trouble. And almost that responsible person. It also means that you've got to have your dog under control, and probably the best way to have it under control is on a lead. But then there are even confusions over lead length. So it could be argued in court potentially if you've got a long line or an extendable lead, you're not necessarily in control of that dog. So a lead less than 1.5 metres, you could probably argue that you're more in control of that dog because it's a shorter lead. So there are loads of grey areas around this law that I think is really useful for people just to know, to safeguard themselves and their dog moving forward.
So many people probably think that their dog is unlikely to be on the wrong side of the law, because a lot of people make the assumption that it's these big, aggressive, out of control dogs that are only the ones that society needs to worry about. But it is really easy, isn't it, to get on the wrong side of the law. And I wonder if you could share any examples of people that have ended up on your course that didn't expect to, and what the circumstances around that were.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to be on the wrong side of the law. We always joke as presenters that we could quite easily, as dog owners, be on our own course. Accidents do happen. We know that 90% of dog bites happen in the family home, for example. So this could be our children. And I guarantee when I go out and I do education with people, I could ask a room of 100 people, do you trust your dog? And I guarantee the majority would go, yeah, my dog would never hurt someone. But actually, when we look back at that stat of 90% of attacks happen in the family home, that's our dogs that we think we know and we trust. So it just goes to show how easy it is for it to happen. Now, I suppose examples of cases that have come onto the course, it could be just a terrier, for example, getting into a scrap with another dog, and actually someone leant in to split them up and they've accidentally got bitten, and then that would result in them being referred on to this course. It could be that they've had a complaint, someone's been on holiday, for example, and their dog's chased a sheep. And again, it's been reported, they've been put back on this course. We do see some sort of larger breeds going onto the course. And I think, because of the media presence around dog bites and what have you, I think the police have to take a stronger view on those bigger dogs, because potentially, I suppose, if you look at it like a risk assessment, the likelihood of any dog breed biting is probably pretty similar. But the potential of the severity of the dog bite goes up with bigger dogs, potentially. So the police, I think, are being cautious, and they are referring more and more sort of bigger breed dogs and their owners onto the course because of that.
I was going to ask you that question, actually, as we sit here in the midst of the the XL bully ban and the consequences of that ban on those breed types. I was going to ask you if you'd seen an increase in referrals to your course of those dogs that could be considered of those breed types.
Now, we do collect stats on what breed the dog is, and that's purely for our interest of working out sort of trends of breeds, whether we're seeing any specific trends going on that we can flag and do educational work towards. Now, we do have XL bullies that have caused a few issues, for example, but actually equally we'll have German Shepherds on there or Terriers on there. So I wouldn't say that we've seen an increase in XL bullies. I would say it's quite steady, but we've probably seen an increase overall in just large breeds generally onto the course.
So going back to a scenario that you mentioned there, which is the classic scenario in a park, isn't it? Where you've got a dog on a lead, whether it be nervous, aggressive or not. And then you've got a dog that's not on the lead that might go running up towards that dog. And say there's an altercation. Now, the immediate kind of assumption would be that the dog that's off the lead, that owner's at fault. But I think from what you said earlier is that either of those owners could end up in a situation where they're on the wrong side of the law. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you've got more chance of sort of saying that you're a responsible owner if your dog is on the lead. So you're sort of more covered if your dog is on the lead, which is why we advise people to walk their dogs on the lead unless they know they've got the recall in place, they know the surroundings, that they're forward thinking, they know if dogs are coming so they can get their dog back, pop it on the lead. However, if there is a serious altercation between two dogs potentially and someone went in to split them up and the dog on the lead bits the person, potentially the dog on the lead's owner could get put onto this course. So although you're safeguarding yourself for the dog on the lead, I always think I'm really strong when I'm out on a walk, for example, and I will literally shout directions at people, can you put your dog on the lead, please? But actually people don't listen, do they? I was only out walking a friend's dog the other day, well, a couple of dogs, and they're terrier types. And I did say to the person coming, I said, can you make sure your dog's on the lead? Because these aren't my dogs, so I don't actually know how they're going to react. And he said, I know those dogs. Sometimes they're okay, sometimes they're not. And then instantly dropped the lead and let his dog come over. And obviously the dogs that I was holding on a short lead started barking and reacting, which caused him to then have to come and grab his dog. So it just goes to show how easily these things can happen. Even though I'm communicating, telling someone to put their dog on the lead, it doesn't necessarily mean that I am going to be protected. I think a really important part of this law is no, the words no doesn't protect you. So if a child comes up and asks to stroke your dog and you say no, and they still stroke it and your dog bites them, you would still get in trouble under this Section 3 of the Dangerous Dogs Act, because no is not a defence, which is quite interesting, isn't it?
So hang on a minute, let me get this straight. So if, and it, I suppose it doesn't have to be a child, does it? It could be another adult, couldn't it? That comes up to you and said, can I stroke your dog? And you say, I'd rather you didn't, please don't. They're nervous, they don't like strangers, or they don't like men. And that person ignores you and then goes to touch your dog and your dog reacts and bites. You're still liable for that incident. That actually makes me quite cross, actually, if I'm going to be really honest. But that's
it's
that's
very worrying, isn't it? Well, you've got to be a really strong character to almost like step in between the person and your dog to protect your dog. And I think it's really important that we do think about protecting our dog all the time, because although we can put things in place by saying no, please don't touch the dog, we've got to be prepared to put ourselves in a position to make sure that that doesn't happen, whether it's moving the dog away, whether it's stepping in between the two. But no's not a defence.
I think that's a really good point you make there about we've got to step in to protect our dog. And I think it's a really good way of looking at it. You're not protecting the person who's coming towards you from getting injured. You're protecting your dog from putting them in a situation that could cause them to react. And I think that's a really positive way to look at it, isn't it? Because I think it reframes how we interact and be more responsible for the situations we put our dogs in. Absolutely. I just wanted to talk to you about an incident that happened to me this morning on my dog walk. You see, and it was interesting what you said there, that, as people that deliver this responsible dog ownership course, you often have, a bit of a chuckle, that you could be in that situation at any time. And I was walking Rodney this morning, and I've got full trust in Rodney with other dogs and people. He's never actually bitten anybody. But I always been incredibly careful with dogs anyway. It was actually my mum that taught me that you should never leave a dog in the room with a child or leave them on their own with a child. And it always has rang through to me. That's not a professional judgment. That was something that has been, ingrained into me forever. So even though he's very good with children, I'm always watching him when he's around children. But this wasn't an incident with a child. This was a puppy. Now, he does have a bit of an issue with puppies. He's fine with them if they're playing and they're out and about. But do you know when people are very young and they jump up at you and jump all over you? And there's been a couple of occasions where this has happened, and he has, told them off. We say tell them off, but he's basically warned them. The owners have found it very upsetting in a park situation. And I know that he doesn't like that. He doesn't like being jumped on incessantly by a dog that hasn't quite learned its manners yet. So I generally at the moment just try and avoid those situations, because of the fact that a lot of people with dogs like that are quite, they might be new owners. They might not have had the dog for a very long time. You can always tell when people are quite sensible. But for me, you often see these very young, enthusiastic puppies on extended leads. And you talked about that control and those leads that don't offer control. I hate extended leads. But anyway, this morning we were walking around a really nice lake near me, and there was said puppy on an extended lead, literally bombing every which way across the path. Now, I don't normally have Rodney on a lead on a walk, but I was like, do you know what? I'm going to put him on a lead and we're going to walk, give this a wide berth, and I will separate this puppy from him. And as I walked past, I kind of did, what you do. And I say, excuse me, do you just mind putting your puppy on a bit of a shorter lead so that their paths don't cross? And the guy turned to me and he was really offended. He was like, why? And I was like, well, because I think my dog might end up telling your dog off if it jumps all over him. So I'd rather you just kept him out of the way. And the guy was like, oh my God, it's only a puppy. Chill out, mate, sort of thing. And I could immediately, with this dog literally at the end of its lead, like bouncing back, trying to get to Rodney. Rodney, started to react. He was starting to growl. So I just turned around and just led him away. And the guy started shouting expletives at me. as if I was, kind of in the wrong or had offended him. And I just thought that's such a shame that you are not able to recognise the fact that, somebody is asking you quite politely. I was quite firm with him. I told him what was going to happen. It started to happen, and then I avoided it, and he was offended because he thought I didn't want our dogs to mix, or that I was, causing a problem with this puppy. Isn't it funny how that situation could have ended
I
so
know,
differently?
and there's like, I understand that people want to socialise their puppies when they're out and about, but actually, I think people need to socialise puppies with dogs that they know and that the owner knows that they will be fine with it. You don't do that out and about because you don't know what the other dog's going to do. And actually, it's really sad for that puppy to have a really negative experience. If your dog was to do something, that puppy's main learning time is during those early stages, isn't it? So to have a negative association with another dog can potentially change behaviour for a long time to come, and it's actually harder to correct that than just do it in a positive way from the get-go. So yeah, I think people just need to, realise that it's a constant battle for me when I'm out and about with my dog, that everyone thinks and they trust their dog and they're like, oh, my dog will be fine with yours. But actually, I don't want to put my dog in that situation where she has a really bad experience and then she's scared of things, because I know my dog is quite sensitive and she's quite nervous and a bit of a worry pot. So I want to make sure that every interaction is a positive one. So I must admit, I walk and I always concentrate when I'm walking. I never sort of look at my phone and drift off. I'm looking into the distance to see what potential dangers are coming, whether someone's got their dog off of the lead. And I put her onto the lead and let them sort of see from quite a distance away that I'm making the effort to do that. And quite often that triggers them to put their dog on the lead. Or if they fail to do that, I must admit, I'm quite vocal and I will just shout out in a nice way, but please can you put your dog on the lead, like you did. But yeah, some people just don't, I suppose, don't see the importance in it, which is a shame.
I've got friends of mine who are thinking of getting a dog, and because Rodney's so well adjusted, and he, I do borrow my doggy with him, and he goes off to his various families and things. I said to him, "Hey, why don't you just take him for the weekend?" And they've got a couple of kids, and he's really good with kids. And I said, "But I'll come with you, and do the local dog walk with you first, just so that you're familiar with how he walks and, how to recall him and all that sort of stuff." And honestly, I think I put
Yeah.
the fear of God in them, because I was walking around going, right, that's a hazard. Right, that's a hazard. That puppy is definitely a hazard. Just be careful there. That's a ball. Just be careful with balls. I need to recall him. Put him on a lead there. And then at the end of the walk, they were like, oh my God, this is really stressful. But it's right. Like, you have to be constantly aware, don't you? And I see so many people just wandering around
Yeah.
parks, especially in London, on their phones, having absolutely no idea what their dog's up to at the end of the lead that they're holding. And, these are all, you can see their dog's anxious or frightened or reactive. And, it is a constant, you've got to be constantly on it, haven't you, when you're walking dogs?
Yeah. I like to, take her out and actually do training along the way, because we know that when we train our dogs, it uses their brain and it knackers them out far quicker than just going for a walk and letting them do what they want to do. And I think that's a really good way of keeping control, having that recall in place, making them sit on command, for example, for a treat, reward. And I think it's quite enjoyable for them to do that as well. We're going to let our dogs sniff and have a nice time as well. But I think just adding those elements of training in whilst we're walking our dogs can help keep our dogs a lot safer. And actually it keeps us more attentive and aware of the situations around us.
So Let's Blue Cross have been running the responsible dog ownership course, or the RDoC course, for some time now. Can you run me through what the key components of the course are?
Yeah, so we start off by just covering really dog law and legislation, because a lot of people don't realise why they're on the course, and once they understand, they're much more on board. We talk a lot around safety around dogs and that sort of communication, how to greet dogs to keep ourselves safe and our dogs safe too. Talk a lot about dog communication because they talk with their whole body. So it's about understanding our dogs and those low level behaviours such as lip licking, for example, where we might want to just give them a bit of space, and that escalation of behaviour, if we ignore that, it might go on to showing bigger signs such as, end scale dog bite, for example. We also just help people moving forward because they might have control orders on their dogs, such as keeping them on a lead or a muzzle. So we give them top tips around this and support them sort of ongoing from there.
Can you talk me through how dog owners are referred to the RDoC programme?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we would love to open it up to the general public, but we just don't have the resources at the moment. So currently, people are referred through the police or local authorities, and it could be through a conditional caution, community resolution, right down to a community protection notice, for example. So basically, the police would send us all the information. We would then get in contact and get someone booked onto the course, usually within about 3 months.
Now I'm thinking that's a bit like a speed awareness course, in that
exactly the same.
Well, I know, yeah. and actually I've never done one a speed awareness course, but I have heard that you probably have to do quite a bit of work in getting those referred people engaged with the course, because I can imagine if they feel like it's something they have to do rather than what they do. So what do you do to get people kind of on board with the messages that you're trying to help them with?
So we've got a lovely admin person called Rhiannon, and she is so experienced at dealing with people and getting people booked on. She's a trained paralegal, so she understands the law side of things. She understands the consequences of them not booking on. So she sort of phones them in a very friendly manner. She explains the consequences if they don't book on. We have to refer them back. And then potentially they could get taken to court. So obviously court costs a lot of money. It's quite a worrying time for people. So it's much easier and much simpler option just to get them to attend this 3-hour course, which is the selling point, really.
And how does this course differ from other kind of dog training or education programs? What makes it unique?
So this course is super unique. I think it was the first one of its kind. It was recognised back in 2020. I think DEFRA commissioned a report with Middlesex University on like the interventions to dangerous dogs, and it came out as education was the key to this. So this is something we've worked really, really hard on over the years. As far as we're aware, at the moment, there's only one rival course, which is not in person. So although we do it as an online sort of in-person course, this other course is actually just an e-learning course. So we know the benefits aren't as much as them coming onto an online course where they can ask questions, we can have debates, discussions around the subject, and they can go away with so much more. So really, this is unique at the moment, which is brilliant for Blue Cross, because we're seeing, I suppose, huge rewards out of it, because we do a lot of research. So we contact them the day after to say, how easy was it to book onto the course? What, did you find the course useful? But then we contact some people who agree after 8 weeks, and we do that sort of more longitudinal research. So we ask them whether they've made any changes since being on the course. And actually, we're seeing a massive, massive difference in people just changing small things that are making a really positive difference to their dogs.
So tell me about some of the success stories from the participants that have completed the RDoC programme.
Okay, so we've had a few people sort of contact us afterwards to say, oh, you know what, you mentioned that actually about positive muzzling, for example, and how to do it. And actually, we've put this in place, and our dog is so much happier with a muzzle on now. And it's actually, we say muzzle, and it's running towards the muzzle, and we can pop it on and keep our dog safe and safeguard our dog. Then we've had people that have contacted us after us to say, I had severe anxiety about coming onto this course. You made me feel completely at ease. You gave me some really good top tips moving forward. I was really anxious about walking my dog, and actually during that time between the police referring me and me attending the course, I didn't walk my dog because I was so anxious about getting things wrong. They felt huge guilt, for example, when their dog had bitten someone. But actually, since sort of putting them at ease and giving them those top tips, they're able to now go out into the community. They know how to keep their dogs safe. They know what to put in place, and they're able to finally walk their dogs again, which is great for the dogs and, great for the people too. Yeah.
So, Gemma, if you were going to paint your perfect vision of the future, what would that look like in terms of dog ownership?
Do you know what? I would love for Blue Cross to have funding to do an intervention. So before it gets to the stage where a dog has done something wrong or an owner's done something wrong, to be able to give people that knowledge and skills much, much earlier, like when they get their puppy, for example, so that people know what to do. They know about the law. They know how to safeguard their dogs. And I think that is going to be the key to sort of changing things in the future. But I think by giving people that vital education, I think there is positive outcomes moving forward. And, we are going to try our best to move this course forward, to offer it to every police force in the whole of the UK, which is a massive aim, and every local authority in the UK as well. So we've got some big things coming up. We've got some huge aims, but we're a really determined team, and we're going to put the work and the effort in to do that and to make a positive change for dogs and owners moving forward.
I'm just going to I'm going to finish with a question that I ask all my guests. Can you tell me about a pet or a person that you've come across in your line of work that has inspired you? Tell me about their story.
Okay, so I'm not going to choose a dog. I'm going to be a little bit different here because during my time in animal welfare, I actually used to work with the horses at our Burford Blue Cross years and years ago when I was younger. And there was one horse that massively inspired me. And she's still I won't say the name because she's still my password on my computer 20 years later. But this poor horse came from another charity in Ireland. We know that she had suffered real abuse because she had a broken dock, which is the top of the tail. She was very defensive in her behaviours. She used to squeal at us, turn her hindquarters and literally come at us with both back legs and squirt urine at us, which was really pleasant. But I worked with this horse for over a year, like gaining her trust. And it was, like very baby steps all the time. And this horse ended up literally loving me. I was the only one that could, I suppose, go into a stable, just whack the head collar on until sort of the later days where I started introducing other people as well. She hugely inspired me because she taught me so much about horse behaviour and about being patient and taking time, and that things weren't just a quick fix. Unfortunately, she also broke my heart as well because she ended up running around in the field and really damaging her leg, which is so sad because I put in so much work and we got over so many hurdles together. But I promised the lady that transferred her, because she had a really strong bond with her as well, that I would be with her till the very, very end. And I promised that I would hold her through euthanasia, that I would phone her afterwards and let her know how it went. So that's probably the animal that's mostly, influenced me in my life. But yeah, such a special bond. And I think animals are so special, and they can sort of really make an impact on us, can't they?
Oh, they absolutely can. And it's interesting, isn't it, how that one animal or that one moment can actually influence your whole career and even life, isn't it? And decisions that you make. So thank you for sharing that. Gemma, it's been amazing talking to you. Where can people go for more? Where can people go for more information?
Okay, so obviously you can't refer yourself onto the course. That would only be police or local authorities. But We've got loads of information to safeguard yourself and sort of arm yourself as really a responsible owner. So head over to Blue Cross advice pages. That's www.bluecross.org.uk, and then just click in advice in the search box, and we can sort of share with you videos, for example, or top tips and training tips from our behaviour team. So we want to be putting that recall in place. We want to be teaching them those top tricks, just to safeguard us moving forward. So please do check out our YouTube channel or visit our Blue Cross site for all the latest training information from our experts at Blue Cross.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And it's just really clear from talking today that, education interventions are key. And, people like yourselves that are working in this sector, really paving the way for safer communities and happier relationships between humans and their dogs. So, thank you for your time today. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. Fabulous.
Oh, thanks, Paul.
Great. Thank you. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. You'll find all the relevant links to this conversation in the show notes. If you enjoyed it, please follow us and leave a review. It really helps other people discover the podcast. For more insights on topics like this, you can connect with me on social media at Dr Paul the Vet, or check out my website, theconsultroom.co.uk.